Hello and welcome to Connecting Jewish Grandparents, the Grand Plan podcast, where we come together to look at the amazing potential of Jewish grandparents, the struggles along the way, and ways that we can find a more joyful, intentional connection with everyone in our family, from the in-betweeners to the grands to the grandkids. Today I want to start with a relatable situation. I'm sure this happened to you before, where you're going to a place where you need to bring a gift. Could be a hostess gift, a birthday present, mishloach mana, shalach manas for Purim. And you go to the store and you go to Home Goods and you pick out like the basket and then you go and you decide what you're going to put in it, and then you go to the event where you brought the thing and then suddenly you start to wonder what's in the next person's basket. What did she bring? Is my gift, is it too small? Is it too big? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Is it really generic? Did I really invest in it the way I should have? And it starts spiraling and you really want to know what everyone else has, and did you do right in your gifting, and how is it going to go? Okay, I can't be the only person that this has happened to on much more than one occasion. This looking in other people's baskets cannot just be a me problem. I think it's a pretty universal problem, but I know, or I think, it's a grandparent problem too. This basket and what is in it is the question that starts this week's Torah portion. Ki Tavo. When you come to this land, and then this opening sentence uses two different words about inheritance, nachala and yerusha. And today's episode is not going to be about unpacking those two words. I could, but it's not today. Let's say I want to talk about what happens when you go and you enter this place of heritage and inheritance. You, the farmer, that's who the Torah is speaking to, is going to gather their first crops, the things that they cultivated through this inheritance, this nachala, this yerusha. Really the intersection of inheritance and cultivation. They received something, but they also worked something. They worked the land. And that, I think, is really remarkably what legacy is. You receive and you're working towards it. Okay, we understand so far what has happened. But they cultivate the land. And then the Torah says you're going to take a basket. I don't think they got theirs at Home Goods. And you're going to fill it with your first fruits. The things that you grew when you cultivated this land, this inheritance. You're going to gather it and you're going to bring it to the temple and you're going to present it to the high priest. And then the Torah goes on to explain what you do when you get there, what you say. It does not talk about looking in someone else's basket. It does not talk about peeking sideways, but come on, that must have been what's happened. Were they checking whose fruit was bigger, more colorful, more abundant? Were they lush, beautiful grapes? The fruit that they're bringing is the Shivat Haminim, the 7 species that are described in the Torah as those that flourish most in the land. But how insecure might one have felt if their crop of pomegranates mostly failed and they're all like small and misshapen and more brown than that gorgeous red that's in the next person's basket. Or the grapes, and they're really small and sour and not those big ones that almost look like small plums. And the olives, how beautiful were they? I can go on for quite a while. I'm just talking about the 7 species and what they look like growing in Israel. Right now we are in a season where they're all lush and beautiful, and the pomegranates are really big and red on most of the trees. But we're past the stage of the first fruits. So what was it like? Were they looking in someone else's basket, or were they proudly looking at their own, no matter how those fruits had turned out, whether they were beautiful or a little bit lacking? Maybe you, my listener, is a farmer in the literal sense. Maybe you've got a beautiful garden or a farm. But as a grandparent, we are farmers too. You have your grandchildren that you cultivated. So are you only looking in your own basket of what your heritage and cultivation produced? Or are you looking sideways at the next basket, at the next grandparent, and what they have? Do they have grandchildren that visit every week, every Shabbat? Grandchildren that live nearby, that they're with all the time? Grandchildren that love every tradition, every story that is told? Do they have in their basket picture perfect grandchildren? You know that baskets are genuinely different. But that does not mean that one grandparent worked harder than another. Just like one farmer probably didn't work harder than another. The most successful farmer is not always the hardest working farmer, because we inherit different soil, different family histories, and that's from life experience to genetics. Different adult children, different circumstances, different distances, different needs. And then there's the weather that we cannot control. The farmers can't control it, and we certainly cannot. So what does that mean? What's ever in your basket is what you have? If you're disappointed by the produce, that's it? You're done? No, of course not. But here is what you do have to be done with. This week, stop looking in someone else's basket. You do not need to peek at what their fruit looks like, what gift they are holding in their hands. Look deep into your own basket. And when you're looking in, you need to ask yourself some important questions. What has grown here that I didn't even notice because I was too busy looking in someone else's basket and comparing? So what does that mean practically? It means that instead of noticing how often someone else's grandchildren call them, maybe you notice that you have a grandchild that doesn't call often, but when they do, They tell you something important. They let you know how much they do need you. It's not a constant, but it's a deep connection of meaning. And maybe it's a tradition that seems small, but it's there and it's held fast. The name that you gave something, like an object, what you call a dish, one of those things that is transmitted that you hadn't really noticed before. Maybe it's a relationship that survived something difficult. And maybe, no matter what's in the basket, it's that you are still trying. You are still working on cultivating the fruit that is right in front of you. So ask yourself, what is one thing I can continue to tend to in this produce of my grandchildren? It isn't fix the whole relationship. It can't be snap my fingers, magic wand. If it were that easy, the harvest would produce incredible lush fruit every time. And it doesn't. And we're not genetically engineering our grandchildren. But what you can do is tend to it, work on the harvest, call, pick up the phone and make that connection. And when you make that call, listen. Listen to who they are right now. What do they need? And then tell a story. Share something of yourself. Talk about that joyful, intentional connection all the time, but it doesn't just happen. It's something that you actively have to be cultivating. And you have to be personalizing it. So what matters to this particular grandchild at this time? I really could go on the fruit analogy for a very long time, but not, the wheat harvest does not need the same thing as the dates. And the grapes are not the same as the pomegranates. And they're not fixed in what their needs are for the season. There is time where they need more rain and time where they need more sun. It changes in the process, and that is exactly the same with your grandchildren. With your grandchildren, not the grandchildren in someone else's basket, because you don't get to choose what they grow. You can only tend to what has been entrusted to you in your garden. Legacy. I said it started with those words in Hebrew of Nachala and Yerusha. But legacy is not about bringing the most impressive basket from Whole Goods or otherwise. It is about faithfully tending what has been entrusted to you. You have what you have. And it's for you to value and to cultivate. So as I said before, this week, do not try to look in someone else's basket. And those baskets, I know, they really are being pushed in our faces through social media, through a friend calling. It's in our face all the time, but you really need to try to avert your eyes and look in to what you have. And maybe you have more than one grandchild and more than one set of grandchildren. So look in that basket, see what you have, appreciate it, and work on tending it further. Thank you for listening to today's podcast. Please rate, review, and reach out to me to continue our work on empowering you to be the incredible grandparent you have the potential to be.